This is Conversations
with Ronnie Keith
and Iris.
Hello, welcome to Conversations with Ronnie Keith. This is your host, Iris. I'm super excited about today's episode, not because it's just personal to me, but I am flying solo today, ladies and gentlemen. There is no hubby here. I'm actually doing my own thing. He actually left me in charge of everything producing. I got this big, huge turntable in front of me, and I'm just super excited to be here and basically introduce you guys to my wonderful friend that we're going to be interviewing. A couple of moments here before we run to the show. I want to take a quick moment and highlight those around the globe that have been basically downloading us and listening to us, which is so great to hear. We appreciate the love and support. I just want to give a quick shout out to Bahamas. That island spirit is unmatched. Thank you all for the download and support. We also have some love here from Spain. Your passion, that food. Oh my God. Thank you so much for Spain for downloading us. And then we also have our Louisiana family. We have some downloads there as well. The Southern Charm and those people as well. We love that gumbo love. And as well, I wanted to give a shout out to Germany. Love all those brothers out there with all those the exotic beers and all that good stuff. So thank you all for downloading us. We love it. Of course, I want to go ahead and reiterate. Please continue to download us. You can find us on any platform. Conversations with Ronnie, Keith, and Iris. We're everywhere. There's no excuse. Please download, listen, and share. You have to physically hit download in order for it to count as a credit. So please continue to show your love and support. So moving along here with this current episode, today episode is definitely one for the books. I got someone joining us who is not only a boss on the boardroom, but a force in the community. She is an entrepreneur, a trailblazing business consultant, and she is a badass, like a fierce patient advocate, ladies and gentlemen. And she is the true voice for thyroid eye disease. And this is also known as the TED community, as what we're going to be referring it to. She's been speaking, educating, leading, traveling across the country and breaking barriers every step of the way. And that's not enough. She's also my corporate sister in crime and a real through and through friend. Without further ado, please help me welcome my wonderful friend, Andrea. Welcome to the show, girl.
Oh, thank you so much, Iris. That's like the best intro I've ever had in my life. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I am so glad you like that. I'm excited to have you here. This is my first time recording flying solo. So I really appreciate you being the first person out there, like really like on the show with just you and I. It's awesome, girl power. So I am
Absolutely.
so excited. And I want to let our listeners know on a little secret right now. You do live by paradise. Isn't that the truth?
Yes, I do live by the beach. I don't like to say that much, but I try to get out as much as I can to the beach when I can, and I might actually take up surfing one day.
What? I love that. Girl, you got to call me for that one. I'll be right there. Why not? Let's do it. So, I wanted to bring you on the show because you just do so many great things, Andrea. You are such a good mentor and, like I mentioned, a great entrepreneur. And I really want us to go ahead and highlight thyroid eye disease, the TED community. And I want to go ahead and actually educate our listeners. If you can, please educate them of what is thyroid eye disease? What is the TED community? And then we could go ahead and delve into how did you realize you had this disease? Where are you from? And it's just like a whole bunch of things we want to ask you to get to know you a little bit better. So Andrea, please take us on this journey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Iris. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Andrea Perryman, and I'm a thyroid eye disease patient and patient advocate. And for those of you listening who may not know what thyroid eye disease is, it's a chronic autoimmune condition. where your autoantibodies attack the tissues behind your eyes, the fat and muscle tissues behind the eyes. And when it does that, it can create, it can cause swelling, pain, inflammation behind your eyes, and then it can cause eye bulging and eye swelling as well too. And it really can really hurt a patient's confidence level because it disfigures your face. You can sometimes look like have a staring appearance where your eyes
Wow.
are bulging out. And it's like one day you wake up and you don't recognize yourself in the mirror. So it can be a really tough disease to deal with. I know a lot of autoimmune conditions in general are tough to deal with, but most of them are invisible. And sometimes you can't see that a person has an autoimmune condition. But with thyroid eye disease, it can be a very visible disease, and you can tell that you have it. Even if some other people who may not know you before you had the disease, they might not be able to tell. Like, you can always tell that you have it from when you look at yourself in the mirror and you just don't look like yourself anymore. So it's really tough to deal with. I think that there's different ways that you can get thyroid eye disease. It's really strange because a lot of people who have a disease called Graves' disease, which is a form of hyperthyroidism,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of those type of patients are more at risk of getting thyroid eye disease. But just because you have Graves' disease doesn't mean that you can't get thyroid eye disease. It's actually a separate disease than Graves' disease. For a long time, a lot of people thought that Graves' disease and thyroid eye disease were the same thing, but they're actually not. They're separate diseases because you could actually have a normal thyroid and still get thyroid eye disease, or you can even have your thyroid removed and still and be treated for Graves' disease and then still get thyroid eye disease.
Oh,
Or you can also be hypothyroid and have an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's and still have thyroid eye disease. So it really can affect anyone as well, although it does tend to affect women at a higher rate than men.
oh, wow. So, and thank you for that, Andrea. And thank you so much for clarifying thyroid eye disease and Graves' disease, because I know you and I are medical driven people, and we've seen that those two sometimes do get mixed up in the community. And I appreciate you breaking that down. And I want to also educate our listeners that are listening right now. When did you notice these symptoms? Tell us about that growing up. What happened to you? What did that look like?
So, yeah, great question. So, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease first back in 2016. And the symptoms of Graves' disease are pretty noticeable as well because you'll start having tremors and rapid heart rate, and then you start losing a lot of weight, and you'll sometimes lose hair, or you have dry or thinning skin, and you can sometimes get anxiety or feel very irritable all the time. So, Graves' disease is very hard to deal with as well, and you'll know that you have it. And so, at that point, when I started noticing those symptoms, I was like, I think I need to go get checked out. So I went to the doctor and got a thyroid panel done, a blood test.
Okay.
And sure enough, when the doctor came back in the room, he sat down and said, "You have a disease called Graves' disease. It's a form of hyperthyroidism." And so he gave me some treatment options. And so I had my thyroid treated for Graves' disease. And so that helped calm those symptoms down. But almost like immediately after I was treated for Graves' disease, I started noticing the thyroid eye disease symptoms. And I may have had slight eye bulging at the time of my Graves' disease, but I don't really remember because it wasn't that severe then. But I really started to notice it after my thyroid was treated because the antibodies for that attack your thyroid are similar to the antibodies that will attack the tissues behind the eyes. And so when your body can no longer recognize your thyroid because you've kind of either removed it or maybe ablated the thyroid or somehow treated the thyroid, then sometimes your body is like, well, then, I'm going to attack these tissues by the eyes because they're very similar tissues to the thyroid. So I started noticing in the mirror that, I looked so strange. My eyes just didn't look the same anymore. And it was really kind of scary because I didn't know if it was going to be permanent or not. Am I always going to look like this? Like,
Oh
what's
my
going on with
God.
my eyes? Why do they look so weird? And then they would start to water and they felt really gritty, like as if sand was in my eyes. So I immediately then went to a neuro ophthalmologist, and he did a couple scans, like CT scans
Mm-hmm.
and MRIs, and then they diagnosed me with thyroid eye disease. But back in 2016, there really was not a lot that they could do for thyroid eye disease, especially when you first get the disease. There's two phases of thyroid eye disease. There's what's called an active phase and an inactive phase. And when you first get the disease, that's when the symptoms are the worst. And there's not much that they can do at that point, even if they want to do surgery on your eyes. Like, they always try to delay that because you're still going through a lot of the symptoms. So what doctors will typically say is like, well, let's just wait and see how your disease plays out. And a lot of patients will hear this, and it's kind of frustrating because you feel like you have no solutions and
Oh
you're
my
just basically
God.
like left to kind of suffer through the symptoms.
And Andrea, can I just step in and just
Yeah.
ask you this now that you mentioned that they'll just play it out? You meaning that they don't offer any medical solutions there for them or treatment or anything?
Well, back in 2016, there really weren't a lot of options. I think that, some doctors can offer IV steroids to help minimize the pain and inflammation and things, but that's not really a great long-term solution. And steroids can be dangerous to take long-term. So, they can help temporarily, I think, but other than that, there really wasn't any actual, medical solutions, only really surgical solutions. And
Wow.
sometimes they weren't able to actually do surgery like till the disease kind of stabilized a little bit.
Oh, wow. And let me ask you, and let me just step in here and say, th- thyroid eye disease is inherited, correct? It can be, or it is.
So they don't really know what the true cause of thyroid eye disease is. With any autoimmune condition, there are sometimes genetic components to them. But really, sometimes they can also be caused by vitamin deficiencies. Stress can also be a known trigger for autoimmune conditions. We know that one of the highest risk factors for thyroid eye disease is in smokers. So doctors will always recommend that patients quit smoking if they are a smoker. And or a lot of patients will say that alcohol is a trigger as well too. So toxins can be a trigger. Vitamin deficiencies, and I think a lot of it too comes down to gut health. I think that sometimes too, if you have an imbalance in your gut health, that can also create a lot of autoimmune conditions as well too. So it's important to understand like what you're eating and putting in your body, and making sure that you're not eating anything that could cause inflammation.
Wow. So when you were recently diagnosed, what was the first thing that came through your head, and what did you start doing right after that diagnosis for TD?
Diagnosis is like the hardest word to hear as a person. It's such, your heart will sink when you hear it, because it's like your
Mhm.
life has changed forever, right?
Mhm.
I knew at that moment that my life was never going to be the same. But the thing is though, at least I was able, with an autoimmune condition, there's other conditions out there that are much worse, but autoimmune conditions, you have a chance at least to get your life back, but it's still never going to be 100% the same. Um, so it was very difficult to deal with. And I think a lot of patients, when they hear that word, they go through like a grieving period because you grieve your old self and how you were. Um, and I think that nowadays I've seen some counselors out there that specialize in diagnosis grief, and I think that more patients should seek that out because it can cause a lot. It can create a toll on your mental health to go through that, and I think that you know doctors should recommend that a patient seek out like a therapist or somebody who specializes in autoimmune um, grief. I think that it would be really beneficial to a lot of patients. But I just remember I just felt really scared and I didn't know what to do. But I just knew that I wanted to learn as much as I could about the disease so that I could take back control of my symptoms.
Oh my goodness. And how about work life? Because you talked about the mental health part of it, right? It is, you get diagnosed, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What are the next steps? So you talked about the mental health part of it, confidence. But how about your ability to show up to work, like on day to day tasks? How was that?
Yeah, so I really had a hard time wanting to tell anybody what I was going through. I kind of just withdrew into my own world, but I knew that I still had to go to work and I had to rebuild my life. See, because thyroid eye disease came to me at, a time where I was trying to, better my life and pursue education. And I wanted to go to like pharmacy school and things like that. But unfortunately, thyroid eye disease came into my life and I had to change everything about my life. And I had to slowly rebuild my life. And so at that point, I knew that there were some things I wasn't going to be able to do. So I had to switch gears. And then I got a job and was able to rebuild. But it was difficult in the beginning for sure. I remember having to show up to work and I would walk in the door and my eyes would
Mhm.
be incredibly watering and red. And then I worked
Oh
in an
man.
office with like really bright fluorescent lights, and that really hurt my eyes because a lot
Mm.
of patients have light sensitivity. And I just remember the watering of my eyes would make my makeup run. And I was kind of embarrassed by it. And there was one point too where I was, talking to my boss, just having a conversation, trying to get to know him because I was new at work. And I had to stop in the conversation and wipe my eyes and tell him, I promise I'm not crying.
Oh.
Um, because my eyes were watering so much.
Oh my
So
God.
it was hard to deal with, and you feel like you're dealing with this all alone because when I first got the disease, I thought I was the only person in the world with that. I didn't know anybody else with this disease.
Oh my God. So it sounds like this around this time in your life, you felt very invisible, like just misunderstood because you had TED. And how did you feel like that constantly? And let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that thyroid eye disease doesn't just change the way you see. It changes your whole world and all your daily activities. And sometimes it makes it even hard to do daily activities like driving, or imagine if you have a job where you're working in front of the computer all the time and you can't see, or you get
Right.
some people get double vision, severe double vision, and you can't work. You're basically
Mm.
debilitated if you have that. And so yeah, imagine, I mean, eh, if you want to prioritize like the senses, I think like a lot of studies have shown that when they've surveyed patients of what senses they value the most, everyone says that it's sight.
Mm.
So losing your sight is such a hard thing to do. If you lost your sight, there's a lot of things that you can no longer do. And so it's
Oh
really
God.
hard to live like that. And, with thyroid eye disease too, um, you don't look like yourself anymore. And unfortunately, when you take photos and things like that of yourself, like you can see all of the imperfections and how the disease like changed your eye shape or your face shape. And then you don't want to actually be in any photos. And because you don't like the way you look in the mirror, you don't want to go to any family events. You don't want to go out. You don't want to go meet people.
Mm.
I remember there was times where I didn't even want to look at myself in the mirror.
Oh my
So
God.
that's, I mean, it definitely makes you feel like you are invisible. That's for sure.
Oh my God. And I definitely want to move on and talk about not just only living with TD, but just stepping into this advocacy role that you are in your life right now. And I want to know, like, what was the turning point that you were like, no, I'm no longer going to be living with TD. I'm going to go ahead and lead for the TD community. Let's talk about that. When was that turning point for you?
Yeah. So thyroid eye disease, the treatments for thyroid eye disease have fortunately evolved since I was diagnosed in 2016. And luckily new treatments became available, and I was able to at least try those out. And I was so fortunate to find the right care team for me as well too, that could help me get right on track, find the right doctor and team that could help me. And so after I did all that, I did, my treatments and things like that. And it took me about a year and a half to get my life back, like where I looked and felt like myself again.
Mhm.
And I just remember that day, looking in the mirror after I started to see the improvements and things like that. I just felt so happy, like glowing again in the mirror. And I would just keep smiling. And it just made me feel like amazing, that the first thing that I wanted to do was to go get professional photos taken of me again, because I hated every single photo of me throughout all of those years of living with thyroid eye disease. In fact, there's some parts of my Instagram page where you won't see a photo of me, or if you do, I have sunglasses on. Like there's several years of photos without, you can't see my eyes. And so after that, and I started to do the photos and things like that. I was like, you know what, I want to share my story, because this is amazing. I was able to get my life back. And what if there's other people out there that are struggling with this? And so, I started to approach some advocacy groups and said that I wanted to share my story, and they loved that. And so they set up a video with me so that I could tell my story on video. And then they started to invite me places to share my story. And then I even started meeting people who invited me to Washington, D.C. to share my story. So
Oh, big
it's
time
been really, really
dollar.
amazing to help, to walk down the halls of Capitol Hill
Yes.
and go share my story with senators. So it's just been an amazing journey. And I'm glad that I'm here now.
Oh my goodness. You speak about it, you educate about it. And I love how you're creating this visibility around the TD community. It's just wonderful. So tell me, I have to definitely like dig into this. What was the most amazing thing when you went to Washington? I have to know.
Well, I got lucky. The weather was really amazing when I was there. But also too, I met some amazing patient advocates that were so inspirational. I've gotten to meet not just thyroid eye disease patient advocates, but patient advocates from all different disease states. And they were just so incredibly inspiring. Everyone has such amazing stories. And I was just so grateful to meet them, because even though we might not share the same disease, we still share so much in common. When you have an autoimmune condition, we all understand there's certain overlap of certain autoimmune conditions that you learn from these other patients. And it was just really great to learn from them and be connected with them too. So
Was there ever a case or an experience that you had, with just being around other peoples that have had other autoimmune conditions that kind of just sparked your heart and kind of like did something to your soul for that person? Was there ever a case that ever happened to you?
Yeah. So I met this lady and she lives in Beverly Hills. And she is a huge advocate for her daughter who had cystic fibrosis. And her daughter was like a superstar and went to like Stanford University and, did research papers and things like that. And she was just amazing. But unfortunately, she passed away because of cystic
Oh.
fibrosis because she got what's called a super bug, and they couldn't get approval for antibiotics in time to treat her for it. So unfortunately, her daughter ended up passing away, and so she wrote in her journal every day about her disease because she knew that she was going to, she knew kind of in the back of her head that she was dying.
Mhm.
So she wrote in her journal every single day about her journey with cystic fibrosis. And her mom published that. And I read it and it was just really, really, I mean, at the end of her, she did a presentation on her daughter. And after that presentation, I was in tears and everybody on that presentation was in tears. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. It was just really incredible. And today, this girl, I don't even know her and she's not even here with us anymore, but she's incredibly inspirational. And those are the kind of people that really inspire me, or people that really went through a lot, but still made an effort to, show people that life can be better no matter what you're going through.
And Andrea, that takes me to the next conversation. Like, what is that one thing you just wish, being around all these different individuals that, like this young lady that had cystic fibrosis, which is unfortunate. I remember seeing that presentation and I was in tears too. That was very intense and very emotionally. Oh, what is just one thing that, people just get it all misunderstood about TED in general?
Well, I think that, with thyroid eye disease, again, a lot of people think that it's part of Graves' disease, or sometimes some people think when they first get thyroid eye disease, they're not sure what it is at all. If they don't have hyperthyroidism, but they just got thyroid eye disease, a lot of people will mistake it for allergies, and that can cause misdiagnosis. So there's been some patients out there where they haven't actually been able to get diagnosed for several years because their doctors didn't understand what was going on with them. And it is unfortunate because in schools, at least in like the undergrad and things like that, when people are learning about medicine, they don't really teach you what thyroid eye disease is. They'll kind of cover Graves' disease, but they never really mention thyroid eye disease, or that it's like separate from Graves' disease. So it's important for people to understand those differences. And then also too, that if you feel like, it might be something more than just allergies because the symptoms are persistent, then you should definitely get scans done and or check antibodies, because that'll really determine whether you have the disease or not.
And thank you for sharing that. I definitely something that we want to advocate out there for the TED community. If you have thyroid eye disease, or if you know somebody that has it, that's great to know. And Andrea, just living with TED, we mentioned, we talked how unpredictable it is. So, what are some go-to wellness habits or remedies that have helped you stay grounded or just centered alone during your healthy journey with this autoimmune condition?
Yeah. So when you get diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, like I said before, that your life isn't going to be the same, but it doesn't mean that you can't live a healthy life again, but you probably are going to have to change everything about your life if you want to live a healthy life again and be able to be your best self. So immediately what I did was, I changed my diet, ate very clean, and then I documented my triggers, what would trigger me and things like that, and then removed those things from my diet, and just really paid attention and really tried to really understand my body. So that's the one thing you can do is definitely make changes to your diet. But also too, I also, will go to wellness centers and things like that. And, do either like, vitamin infusions that make me feel good because sometimes I'll feel fatigued, I'll feel really
Yeah.
tired. And so, I'll do vitamin infusions to help give me an extra boost for the week. Or, I also will do oxygen therapy that I noticed that actually really does help my eyes and helps relieve, um, any swelling that may mildly come back or whatever like that. So, but I really and I work out. I try to exercise. So just really living a healthy life and not going back to any things that really I know that I kind of understand are going to trigger my disease.
Oh, that's wonderful to know. I know that we have a lot of those health centers here that do have oxygen therapy, the IV drips. They offer facials. They offer a whole bunch of stuff, don't they? A plethora of things that they can help you.
Yeah, yeah. It's like kind of an all-in-one place to go, which is great. It's kind of like
I
booking a
love
spa
that.
day, but like I call it booking a self-care day. So I'll
Look
go
at
there and
that.
I'll spend a couple hours, maybe even the whole day, and do a couple modalities that I feel really help me. Everybody's different, so you have to find what works best for you. And also, too, it's important to speak to your doctor before you try any of those things and make sure it's right for you. But I feel like the most important thing you can do is try things that you have read or researched about and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then keep moving until you find what works for you.
And thank you for sharing that, Andrea. I think that's very important for people to know out there that your local wellness center could help you out tons. I mean, immediately. I've heard so many great things about oxygen therapy alone. Come on now. I mean, just great things about it. And I know that you do all this wonderful advocacy work and you travel and business and life. I want to know, what can we look forward from you in the future? What's in store for you? I'm excited to know.
Well, I hope not to slow down anytime soon.
Of
I'm
course.
excited. I've done a lot of traveling already this year, and done a lot of advocacy work and advisory boards and things like that. And I hope to continue doing that. I think so. I've been helping this nonprofit organization that I'm involved with called TED Community Organization. And so I'm working with them because I'm going to be speaking at an upcoming conference that we have. And I'm helping to design the conference because it's a newer nonprofit. And so we're trying to figure out what a conference for thyroid eye disease looks like. And it's been really, really exciting collaborating with other patients
Oh, that's
um, in
wonderful.
the nonprofit to figure this out. And that'll be sometime in November. And we're
Oh,
really, really excited to bring that out. It's going to be like the first patient led thyroid eye disease conference out there. So,
oh
yeah, I'm
my
really
God.
excited
That's
about that.
phenomenal. I can't wait to see you out there, girl. Phenomenal to hear. And Andrea, I just wanted to compliment you and, give you your flowers because your story is definitely the definition of power, purpose, and perseverance. And you just didn't just live through, TED. You choose to lead through it. And I feel like your voice and your heart and just your boldness alone, just helping others is it's seen and it's so strong. So for our listeners that would like to connect with you and understand the thyroid eye disease community more, follow your journey, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to invite anyone to, reach out to me if they would like to talk or be connected to any other patients within the thyroid eye disease community. We're a growing community and we want to try to find as many patients as we can to join in. So, you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/Andrea Perryman. You can also email me if you'd like at AndreaPerrym@gmail.com. Or if you want, or if you're a thyroid eye disease patient or maybe a caregiver and you want to find out more about the disease or find out more resources or join the TED community, you can visit the website called tedcommunity.org. And it's really great to be, so involved with other patients as well too. Because again, this is a very isolating disease, and oftentimes, when I speak to patients, they'll tell me that I'm the only patient that they've ever spoken to since they've gotten this disease,
Oh,
and so it's
oh
important
wow.
for people to have that support and other people who understand what you're going through. So yeah, so that's where that you can find me.
Oh, thank you so much for that. You truly have a beautiful story. And again, I am so excited that not only this is my first solo gig here, but you were the first person that I get to interview. So I'm super excited about that. And I want to thank you so much for joining me and, of course, supporting Conversations with Ronnie Keith. This has been Conversations with Ronnie Keith. Until next time, be bold, be kind, and never be silent about your story. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea.